Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so thrilled to have my beautiful friend and co-facilitator of our Women's Wellbeing Mastermind series, Andrea Vallely, with me today. Andrea has been on the journey of self-discovery for over 20 years. 4 years ago, she heard something she could not ignore, and that was the work of Sydney Banks. She now shares these principles on radio, TV, and with personal and business clients, teams, and groups. Welcome, Andrea. So lovely to have you with me today. Before we get into, I'd love to talk about the Women's Wellbeing Mastermind that you so graciously asked me to co-host with you. But before we get into how you conceived of that and what brought you to that, I'd love to just tell me a little bit about how you came across the principles and how they impacted your life.
Yeah, so I came across them about 5 years ago, and it was from a book. It was Michael Neill's Inside Out Revolution. And I had been looking in the direction. I mean, I would say I was pointing, I was in the direction of how can I better myself? How can I fix myself? And I sort of had this story of that there was something that there was like a string that I had to cut. There was just always something. As soon as I can get rid of that, there was always sort of this self-improvement story that I had going on. And I had been certified in NLP and hypnosis, and I'd done happiness coaching, which is wonderful, and looked in the direction of A Course in Miracles and tapping, and you kind of name it, I dabbled in it. And it was really interesting because my husband he was an NLP trainer, so he has a really strong background in NLP, and he had actually trained with Michael Neill in NLP, so he had always followed him. And I remember he read the book and he said to me, "You've got to read this book." And there was something that I couldn't ignore, which was really, it was very gripping to me. And we just got curious and started doing some exploring, and then, listening to Sydney Banks recordings and reading his books. And then, with various, George Pransky's book and, sort of, you name it, Elsie Spittle, we just sort of dove into everything. And I remember feeling such a sense of freedom, like I could just be myself. I no longer felt like I had this block. That was a big thing for me. Like, there was one thing that was blocking me. If I could just get rid of this one block. I just felt a tremendous sense that I was okay as I am, and there was nothing to fix, and I wasn't broken, and there was no reason for me to become better, that I was already okay. And that was truly life-changing for me. It was like, I felt like I could relax. And that was the biggest aha. It was like, I just look no further kind of thing. Because, you get into this whole self-improvement, self-help thing, and you're just constantly looking for the next best modality. And then once you see that self-help is about trying to help a self that you've made up, it just kind of doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah. So it was really completely life-changing in every way. I see such a tremendous shift in how I show up in the world, how I handle life, because life's still happening around me, for me. And the way that I experience it comes from a very different place. So that's been really, really beautiful. And I still do this, as you and I talk about in our mastermind. I can't say, oh, I got it. I still go up and down the roller coaster. However, it's from a space of knowing the okayness of that and knowing the naturalness of that experience. So that's been totally life-changing.
Well, I haven't a clue what you're talking about, because I was not on that self-improvement bandwagon. No, we joke about this. Between the two of us, I think we've managed to touch on every modality out there on that.
Yes, most likely, including angel card messenger practitioner, or whatever the heck. I don't know if you did that one. I'm sure you did.
It's so funny. I just came across my angel cards yesterday. I was looking at a box and I thought, what's in there? And I lifted it and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, the angel cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. All of that. So, yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this mastermind with you that we do for women. But I want to ask you, what was it? How did that come to you? And why did you particularly want to work with women? What was it that you saw with your clients that you thought, I want to take a deeper dive in this, those sort of 8-week course that we offer?
Well, I had always, it's so funny because, I was working, there was a time when I was doing groups in a treatment center and, they would hire me and then they would put me where they wanted to put me. And I happened to do a lot of women's groups and I loved it. And I had always wanted to put something together on my own when I was no longer working in treatment. It was just something that I'd always thought about. And it was one of those things where it was like, always, oh, I'm going to do that, but it just, I never actually put it into practice. And then when COVID hit, I remember and I've told you this story before, but I was taking a walk with my husband along, A1A, which is where the beach is in Florida, where we live. And I said to him, now's the time I want to do that women's group. And, I can just do it online. And it was so funny, Del, because I didn't know you well. I knew you from the Soul Centered series and we had talked a couple of times. But I said to my husband, I want to see if Del would like to do it with me. And he was so funny because he said, I was thinking the same thing. We had never had a discussion about it. I mean, never. It just, you popped into my mind. And I thought for some reason, and I barely knew you, but something said this would be a great match.
Yeah.
And, it was just, again, it was wisdom. It was just one of those things, like it just came up. I called you and I remember you said to me, I was thinking about doing something with you too. I remember you had said that you were thinking of something along the same lines.
Yeah. Oh,
so
wonderful. I know, talk about synchronicity. And it's been wonderful. I mean, we've done, how many have we done already?
This will be our third.
Starting on our third now.
Yes. And we have quite a few regulars that will be coming back for the third time, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So what I love about doing the group of women is that, yes, we might come in as the facilitators, but we are learning from each other. We're just sharing our life experiences and it's just this beautiful space where we just keep growing and expanding. So so what have you got out of the group working together? What have you seen for yourself?
I think my understanding has deepened since we've been doing this. Just being able to have this conversation, especially with you, who's been looking in this direction. So we both have different backgrounds in where our learning has come from, but we're both pointing in the same direction. Mm-hmm. Our language is different, but we're pointing in the same direction. And I think that's been really just a big opening for me, just a really big expansion for me to be able to share this conversation with you and talking to women that what I've found is that we all kind of really go through the same thing. It may look different, but we've all in some form had a very similar experience. So I think it's very freeing. And I think this is what's been big for the women that we've been sharing this with is to know that we're not alone, that we all kind of go through the same stuff. Again, it may look different, but it's pretty darn similar. And that's been a huge expansion for me. And the other thing that's coming up is, like you said, we're not teaching, we're sharing. And we're all sharing together. And I think there's such a comfort in that. There's no difference between, there's no us and them. It's all this beautiful sharing together and just having an open space. And this is what a lot of the women have said that have joined us, to have that open space, to see that they're not alone and to be able to, emote and share and see their okayness. I think that's the biggest thing, because we love to judge ourselves. You know, we love to think, well, I'll be happier when that happens, and I'll be happier when I'm over this, and I'll be happier when, you know, that's like a big thing. When that happens, I'll be happy. And to see that it's all okay. You know, there is no destination, that we are, the journey is what it's all about. And that there's such a beauty, even in the discomfort. There's a beauty, there's a deliciousness to it.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. I mean, I think that is the beauty of what we both bring to it, is that we do have different languages. And I find it fascinating. I love listening to you and how you describe, as you said, I mean, it's all shared experience, it's all shared understanding. But I love the difference, how we both share the same thing, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that also adds to the richness of the group. And I'm thinking about the group right now, and just the age range and the different lifestyles. And I mean, there's going to be about a 50-year age range between all the people who had that.
That's accurate. Yeah.
And then also the synchronicity of because we just show up and talk about our week, which is what's so funny. But then we sort of look at it through the lens of that, you know, we're very real. We share what's happened to us, what we felt, you know, whatever was going on in our life. But then we're looking at it through the lens of the principles. But as you said, that shared experience that we all go through as human beings. But I think what I noticed in the group was, each week people would say, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed to hear this week. This is what I'm going through. And the thread, each week we saw it just go through each of us. And it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But as you said, I think the most important thing is that we know we're not alone. We know that, you know, that we're okay, we're normal. Everything we feel and come up against as human beings is just, you know, what we do. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing broken or needs to be fixed.
Yeah, that's it. And what I've found is, the more that you see the truth in that, the less scary life is, you know, and the more accepting we are of life. And I love what you said about everyone getting something out of the group. One of the biggest things that I've learned just over the years of doing groups is that it doesn't matter what the topic is. If you show up, there will be something relatable. You know, I remember one girl who, you know, was sort of hesitant to put herself on the camera to actually be physically in the group, was concerned about, you know, would she relate? And I said to her, you know, if you're uncomfortable, just pop on, don't put your camera on, and see how you feel. And it was so interesting, because she called me after and she said, that other woman that was in the group, I could have sworn it was coming out of my mouth. And that's what always happens.
Yeah.
That's what always happens, because we're all connected anyway. So there's always something, even if the topic is like, oh, I can't relate, we can all relate. Yeah. We can all relate. It's really cool.
It is. It's so true. And what I've also, some of the feedback I got, which is, again, you know, we all have our blind spots, but we're really good at recognizing it in other people. Yeah. And that's what one of the women said back to me. She said, it's like, I could saw myself through the eyes of somebody else. When I heard her speaking, it was like, and you know, this was another person that happened to be a little stuck that week in something. And she said, oh my God, I got to see where my blind spots are. But it was because it was not me. I didn't have to defend it or anything. I was like, oh my God, thank you. You know, you've just shown me a part of myself that I needed to see. And it helped her a lot. So, I mean, groups are just, I think back to, I used to be very isolated, sort of very much kept, and I had a mind full of thoughts of what's wrong with me and on my sort of laundry list of everything that's wrong with me. And I remember when I first started going out and sort of into social, I'm not talking about friendships now, but networking or business things or that type of thing. And when you see that, oh my God, I'm just like everybody else. It's like you just mantle of weight, of heaviness, of judgment and negativity that we shroud ourselves in. You can just let it go. It's like, Oh, me too. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's freeing to know that, for lack of a better phrase, like, we don't all got it. We think, at least we're sort of led to believe, oh, they've got it and I don't. We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And what the beauty of the principles has shown me is that that's an okay boat to be in. I don't have to be afraid of feeling uncomfortable or insecure or sad or having anxiety, that I don't have to make that a thing. And I've found that the more that I see this, the more obvious this becomes to me, the less those experiences tend to stick around. It's like their shelf life keeps shortening. So to me, that's gold dust, That's why anytime somebody asks me, what's so great, about the principles, it's like, well, it's kind of been like a game changer for me in a really big way, And as you know, I still do the roller coaster, but it's just not as extreme, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. Like I see the fluidity of it. I see the transitory nature of it. So that's not scary.
No, exactly. I love that. I know. I mean, if I look at myself today compared to, who I was even just a few years ago, it's night and day when we learn that, this, as you said, that sort of, that personality that we've created that feels so solid and so fixed, when we see that's like, oh no, that's just made a thought. We can loosen that up and reinvent ourselves any second of any day we want to.
Yeah.
It's just the freedom in that. And also I love too what you point to, the just to be in our experience, whatever it is, no judgment, just knowing that it's all going to pass through us and move on anyway without us having to do anything about it. And so I mean, as I'm talking here, I'm thinking about some of the topics we touch on, and sort of the inner wisdom, that GPS that we now rely on, as opposed to the delusion that we were in control and in charge of everything.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, how you've seen that in your life, your inner GPS. Well,
that's been the most powerful and most fun part of looking in this direction. I laugh at myself now when I think that my little personal mind knows better than universal mind. That to me is a big giggle. And that's been the absolute most explosive wow that I've experienced so far. And I was sharing with a group last night who, was asking the how question. And I notice, even for myself, that when I'm asking how, I don't see the what, that I'm sort of missing something. I'm missing the foundation. And the answer to the how is never in the traditional answer of, oh, okay, we'll read this book and follow the steps. The answer to the how is always, always, always to look within. It's always to look through to this life force that's running through us. It's this magnificent knowing that is a natural part of who we are. That's where all of the answers are. And that's why, to follow a 10-step program works for the person who wrote the 10-step program, because that was their wisdom. And it's not to say that your wisdom won't guide you to pick up a book and follow that, because maybe that's where your wisdom will guide you. However, what I've found is that what universal mind comes up with is so far greater than anything that my little personal mind could come up with. And that's where I know you and I have shared so many stories together of things that I could have never in a million years figured out how to do. But when I took my hands off the wheel and just listened to my own wisdom, amazing things happen that I could have never come up with. Things that I've wanted to happen, but I could have never created the route on my own. So I see so much in the simplicity of looking within. And it's not easy for us as human beings, because we're doers. And I'm a big doer. I know you and I've talked about this so much. I mean, I don't let grass grow under my feet. So for me to, just sort of chill out and really, really see this life force flowing through me and allowing that to be my guide is a whole huge game changer. It's funny because Lee, my husband, he got me this necklace. This was one of my little Christmas presents, and it's a compass. And, it was just to remind me, this is my compass, that I have this within me, that everyone has this within them, that the answers are always, always, always within. And anytime I'm looking outside of myself for the answer, I'm simply looking in the wrong direction. That's simply not where it is.
Yeah, when you were saying about, your inner wisdom, and I noticed for me too, I actually got busier when I stopped relying on myself, when I stopped spending time up here going, planning and strategizing, and I was just going around and around in circles, a lot of fear. Oh, if I do that, I shouldn't do that, whatever was going on. But as soon as I learned not to look in that direction, to really trust that inner wisdom, that inner guidance, and to relax into that, it was just like it just kept flowing. It was these ideas just kept saying, try this, do this, do this, do this. And it was like, oh my God. And I ended up being so much more productive when I just actually sort of slowed down. It's incredible how that can happen.
Yeah. When I get out of the way, so many cool things happen that I could have never planned or thought of. When you continue to look in this direction, opportunities show up that you could have never thought of on your own. That's what I see.
Exactly. And I totally agree. And it's when we have these goals or whatever, they're limited in scope because they're created on our own. They're not created with wisdom inside us in that moment. And as you said, it's not even, I'm getting excited because I think the more that we can bring the principles into the mainstream and, have it be under that umbrella of well-being and more accessible. When you think about the suffering that, especially with what's going on right now and what's going to impact us on an economic level too, people need this understanding more than ever. So however we get it out there, and
I totally agree. It's so simple, and I feel like there's such a warmth and a freedom to this understanding. We recently gave a talk to an organization, and they wrote us a beautiful testimonial. But what was so beautiful about the testimonial was they said that the comments that they got back was the realness of this conversation, that we weren't putting more on their plates and giving them tactics. We were simply showing them that they're already okay. And there was such it was received with a lot of joy and peace. And that was really cool. That's why I think, you and I and everyone in this community feels so compelled to share this, because it's a relief. And we all want, especially with what's going on, we all want to feel a sense of relief, a sense of not being tied to the outside, having to look a certain way for our own peace of mind. Isn't it a relief to know that we're okay, regardless of outside circumstances? That's the juice. That's the deliciousness of it.
I love that. And like you said, we're not putting more stuff on people's plates. We're actually seeing that they don't have to sort of load their own plate up. It's so simple. And I love it. And I'm just so excited to start this next series off with you again. As you said, we have some people coming back and joining us. And it's been a wonderful journey. I've absolutely loved the people that we've met and been on this journey with. It's been so exciting to share it. And, and some of them have been going through their own we've dealt with grief, we've dealt with resiliency, we've dealt with just so many
lots of family dynamics. Exactly.
And just by pointing them in this direction, and again the feedback being that it's so accessible, it's so ordinary, it's not this sort of lofty philosophical ideas and theories and things like that. We actually talk about real life situations and how the principles apply and how our experience can be easier and lighter.
It's so relatable. And I think what's been really cool, I know there have been a couple of women that were initially hesitant to join a group that felt uncomfortable. And they've all said they were so happy that they did because it was just so warm. And I think that's been really beautiful. There's just been such a warmth and ease to the group.
Yeah. And we always laugh at our own absurdities as well.
Yeah.
Very entertaining.
Very entertaining. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Absolutely.
Lovely. It's been lovely catching up with you, and I will see you at the end of the week. Oh,
yes, well, perfect.
Yeah, we will be offering a couple of webinars. So if anybody's listening, just check in, listen to our webinars, our free webinars, and please sign up for our program if you're interested. It's as we said, it's a lot of fun and warm and inviting and lovely, in a safe, beautiful space to explore our lives and this understanding. So thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for having me, Del. This has been beautiful. And I've had such fun getting to know you and exploring this. That's been that's helped me deepen my understanding. It's just having these conversations weekly. It's just been wonderful. Thank you.
Same here. Well, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at Adey-Jones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.